All right, Valentino, Teacher Valentino, to welcome you in INFO-LANG, Information Languages, where we promote English and give information around the world. So today you are our special guest. We are going to talk about the method to learn good English. And you have been studying languages at ENS, École Normale Supérieure, and at linguistic faculty. So today, I think you are going to explain us what is the best method that someone can use to learn languages. But before we have Teacher Rims, let me get Teacher Rims. As you know that Rims is, how can I say, one of the men who has a highly respect for Valentino. That's why today he's in the broadcast with me as well. So, Mr. Valentino, my first question is that you are going to introduce yourself because Rims, I think my public has already known Rims because I had many broadcasts with Rims, but you are the guest today. The time is yours. I just want you to introduce you to tell my audience who is Valentino, where is he from, what is he or what has he been studying, and what he is studying. Welcome to INFO-LANG Information Languages. Welcome, Valentino.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course,
All
I
right.
hear you.
All right. My name is Rav Valentino Jean. My complete name is Rav Valentino Jean Isidore. I live in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I'm
Yes.
from Port-au-Prince as well. I'm very passionate about language learning, philosophy, and linguistics in general. I studied languages in a state university of Haiti, which is ENS. If you consider that in French, it would be École Normale Supérieure. This is where you have basically a competency just to be a teacher of foreign languages, and there are other departments as well. And I'm currently majoring in linguistics right now. And I'm in the last year, my fourth year, and I'm actually studying descriptive linguistics. So yeah, and I'm also interested in doing translation interpretation as well.
Okay.
I
Teacher
have
Rim, yeah, you continue, Valentino. Let's go.
I have been given some slight language classes online, especially in YouTube. I have a YouTube channel called Polyglot where I try to elaborate my methods when it comes to language learning and also talk about spirituality in Haiti in general. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yo, Mr. Rims, how are you, brother? Welcome because today, like you have been waiting for the podcast, but welcome for joining. So how are you, brother?
So
I can, yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, I
we
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
All right. Thank you so much, Junior. And it's really a pleasure for me to be here tonight, to be here with you guys. And I say tonight because for those who are living in Turkey, it's night, and for those who are living in Haiti, it's afternoon.
Yeah.
And
Right.
because local time, when it comes to talk about what we call time zone, it's kind of different. And I want to start by saying thank you, Junior, and to have invited me to be around with the guests whom I really appreciate. And this is one of my senior. Let's say this is one of the student from ENS
Honestly,
whom,
I only like when Mr. Rames, when Mr. Rames is calling on Savior. I say, come on, Rames, what's going on?
of course, because yes, we did that. So there is a proverb which goes, "We need to give credit where credit is due." So when
Definitely.
something is deserved, we should tell the truth exactly. So we must not wait until the person die and to make a very long speech on the dead body. So we need to do it as the time that the person is living. This is exactly why I'm really proud. I can say I feel on the top of the world if you give me the chance, because
Thank
yeah,
you.
because I'm around with you. My two seniors, let's say my two favorite seniors, whom I had been
Yeah.
following in the school, and today again, guys, it's a pleasure to be here around with you, and thank you for inviting me,
Thank
Mr. Valentino. Thank you and welcome to
you
you.
so much, my friend.
Mr. Valentino, welcome. I don't have anything more to say. Today we are
Mm-hmm.
going to
Thank
be tackling languages, the best method to learn
language.
languages. We are
Yeah,
not
yeah.
going to base, but probably we are going to base on English, Mr. Rames. We are going to base on Spanish because Rames speaks French, English, and Spanish. Valentino speak French, English, and Spanish, and Portuguese, and many other languages. So
Mm-hmm.
now, Mr. Valentino, you know that there are many students. They want to learn English.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them they have been to school for 1 to 3 months. They gave up. Some of them they are learning, but they cannot practice. You as a linguist, so
Mm-hmm.
I want to know you have your time to
Mm-hmm.
have your introduction about languages, and after me and Mr. Rames, we have some important question that our audience are waiting for them to ask you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
after presenting, after explaining, but I just want you to go very slow because we have many beginners and the show now. You see, they keep writing me, and after I'm gonna read the they say keep working Olivier Olido probably Valentino student, he say keep working and for learn. So there are many comments, but I'm not going to base on comments now. Now I'm going to base on Valentino Reigns, who is going to tell us the details linguistically. What are or what is the best method to learn a language, Valentino? Now you get the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Junior Louisain. It's a really good pleasure, as I said before. Language learning is a very interesting process, and it's something that a lot of people are basically interested in doing, especially with the rise of globalization. People are trying to interact with uh, one another all around the world. So, language learning is is paramount in this world, in this modern world. And it's a great way for everyone just to find a way to learn a second language, a third, a fourth, or fifth, etc. Because you get to talk to other people from different cultures, different linguistic varieties, and different ways of seeing reality in general. And I think that language is a linguistic tool, is a tool, is a code that we use in order to communicate our thoughts, our behaviors, our feelings, etc., our passions as well. And a lot of people they struggle when it comes to language learning because they basically think that language learning can be only done, especially when you sit in the classroom and then you're learning from a teacher, which is fantastic, right? You have a really great way, really great method in order to move on in language learning in general. But language learning should be made in a very natural, spontaneous way, right? When it comes to learn a second language or third or fourth, etc., there should be a very natural way to approach the language, and the best way to approach the language is by immersing yourself in the language, using different content in the internet, books, you reading, etc. So I think that when it comes to language learning, people have to be very, 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 very thorough. They have to be thorough when it comes to language learning, and they have to find a way to make it fun. Not just learning languages and trying to imagine a lot of words, emulate the way that a native speaker speaks in general, but the person should have a very natural approach to the language in general. And I think that in Haiti, especially, I have a lot of friends, a lot of people in Haiti that are actually learning languages. They're learning English, and they spend a lot of years learning English, like 5, 6, 7, and 8, even 10 years learning English. They never come close to be able to speak the language like a native speaker or being able to understand a native speaker. What's the problem?
Uh-huh.
What's the underlying problem? That impeding them from understanding a native speaker whenever the native speaker is trying to illustrate something, who's expressing himself in the native tongue. So first and foremost, we have to pay a little attention to what we call uh, TPS, which is a very natural way to approach the language. You can learn the language just by watching videos on YouTube. You can learn the language by immersing yourself in a content that is very appealing to you. For example, when I first started learning English, I was maybe 14, 15 years old. I think back in, right after the earthquake, I was introduced to the language by an American nurse. There's a nurse, right by my house, still there. It's called PID. And a bunch of
Mhm.
American people used to come there. They used to give a lot of, heal people, cure diseases, right after the earthquake. There were a lot of, these cases in Haiti. And
Mhm.
this, that nurse, I still have the book with me, the book that she used in order to help me to master the English enunciation, the English prosody. He told me the way that I have to read the language using, different punctuations and the way that I have to read in natural speech. And also, she helped me with the way that I have to learn grammar and the way that I have to learn
Definitely.
vocabulary. Yeah. And she told me that learning language, she was a linguist, by the way. She had a degree in nursing and linguistics at the same time. And I was very proud, very happy just to have her like my first professor. It was, basically we had like a couple of months together because she went back to the USA. She never came back, to Haiti. And those 4 years, they were the first, they were very, 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 very mesmerizing. And I can vividly remember the way that she taught me how to learn vocabulary words. It was just by using the word, learning the word from a different, from exactly the context of the word. You don't really have to go to a dictionary unless you're reading a piece of literature. Like if you're reading Shakespeare, you're reading Charles Dickens, you're reading Militant, all these great writers in English. You should go to the dictionary in order to, to discover new vocabulary words that have to do with their literary content. But for day-to-day conversation, day-to-day practice, day-to-day English, it's very important to pay attention to the continuity of the language rather than going to a dictionary and looking for specialized terms to express yourself that people are not going to be able to, you're not going to be felt like you're speaking the language as a native speaker. So I think that language learning is very important and we have to develop a direct and a very plausible method, if you will, just to learn a second language because it's very important. And I would say that in this world, if you don't speak a second language, is just a tool, right? To
Uh-huh.
to connect to other people, to connect to different nationalities.
Yes.
If you don't have that this linguistic tool, it's going to be very difficult for you to operate in this modern world. And the best way to do that, if I can say that in a nutshell, is by developing a method that works. And the best method that works is immersing yourself in the language in the most natural and spontaneous way.
Okay, now, Mr. Valentino, congratulations because you have had exposed everything, and I think everything is clear. Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Rings, I think now you are noting and you have your question. Mr. Valentino, let
Yes.
me drop into my question.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
let's talk about languages. One, two, three. One, two, three. For you, what
Yes.
are the barriers that prevent
Mm-hmm,
students from learning English? Do you think that but not learning English, learning languages? Because sometimes
mm-hmm,
they say they are shy. Sometimes they say that, oh, I will not be able to speak because
mm-hmm,
I don't have my accent is not okay. You as a
mm-hmm,
linguist, do you think that
mm-hmm.
those things can prevent the student from learning a language? In your opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Nice
Yeah.
question.
I think that. Can I see? Yeah, I can see now. Can I?
Excuse me?
Can I see? Can I?
Yeah, of
Yes, yes,
course,
you
of
can.
course.
Go
Yes, of
ahead.
course, of course.
Yes, very good. So I think that in mostly in everything, virtually in everything, is what the most difficult barrier to overcome when it comes to anything is just your internal mindset, your internal way of processing reality in general. So I think
Yes.
that when it comes to language learning, it is the interior world that keeps people from moving forward. It's the psychological downsizing thing. So I think that I would say the first thing that prevents a person, a student, to learn or to master a second language is basically your internal mindset. Like you believe that you won't be able to do it. Okay,
Yes.
so that's the Haiti when it comes to French and Haitian Creole. You can see that a lot of people they went to school for 14, 16, 20 years in their life in Haiti. They still can speak French in a very natural way. Why? It's because that we have this chain, this mental chain in our brain, and then this
Yes.
kind of discrimination and prejudice at the same time that keeps us from learning, from analyzing the language naturally. I think that you have to put yourself in the conditions that you have to say that I'm not a, because even kids, they start learning the language. They start picking the pitch of the language. They start picking
Yes.
the melody of the language. It's an ongoing process. There's a Spanish linguist who says that he said that in Spanish, um, el lenguaje es a su alcance. It's like the language itself is not something that you're going to learn to get internally. It's something that you have to learn, even though that you're a native speaker.
Yes, of
Gradually, you
course.
learn it.
Like, that mean, yeah, that mean you want to tell me learning languages is a long process. That mean no
It's
one will be able to speak English for a length of time. I mean you have to keep update everything so that you can speak the language very well. If I understand.
exactly, exactly. You don't really have to say, like, oh, I don't have an advanced, level. I don't have an intermediate level, a high intermediate level. I'm just in a beginner. A language is just a way of communicating with people. So you don't really have to worry about, having an advanced level in general, because once you get to the plateau of advanced level, you're just gonna see
Yes.
that there's nothing to learn, and you still have a lot to learn because you just come to the middle of the journey after the advanced level. Because after the advanced level is where that you're going to put yourself not in a flight simulator, not on a simulator of speaking the language, but you're going to be found. You're going to be found in the real world where the language is going to be implemented, and then you are going to use the language with natural, real native speaker. You have to tell yourself, well, I have to start somewhere. So where do we have to start? You start learning the language, you're picking it up, and then you're using the language through different mediums, through different things that in which you're interested. For example, if you're interested in literature, you can read a lot of literary books in the language, in our case, English. If you're interested in philosophy, you can read a lot of books in the language
Yes.
just to practice the language, just to
Yes.
make it a
Yes.
reactive and
Yeah.
not just
I will
a
be
lot
able
of.
to say, excuse me, Mr. Valentino, because you are saying a lot of great things. Because many students think that the best way to learn languages is like to learn, for example, if they are learning English, they
Mhm.
like staying only in the English book, talking about grammar, vocabulary. I mean, probably that person loves literature, that person loves
Yeah.
music, but he ignores like to learn about music and English. So I think what you're
Mhm.
saying now to me is one of the best methods someone can use that to speak English. You can continue.
Exactly, exactly. And grammar is just the tip of the iceberg, as a lot of grammarians say. It's like grammar is the extraction of the implementation of the language itself, right? Grammar
Yes.
is very limited. It's not illimited. It's not infinity because you can in English there are around thousands of rules of English, grammatical rules. They're not a lot. You can master them. You can be a beginner. You
Yes.
can master all these rules, theoretically speaking. But grammar is just the abstraction, and grammar is not the best approach for anyone that are starting learning the language or wants to move on learning the language, because grammar helps you to articulate more eloquently,
Yes.
because you spend a lifetime studying grammar in a way just to implement it like a writer, like a great writer, like Shakespeare. But being able to communicate is the most important step, the most important thing as well, because if you know a lot of grammar, still you don't know how to communicate in the language, that's a waste of time, right? You should know how to communicate first, then you can know a lot of grammar. You can know how to communicate, you don't know grammar. Because I talk to a lot of, let's say native speakers in English sometimes. I don't correct because I still have that American attitude when it comes to, teaching. Okay. I love the American way of teaching. When I'm speaking to a lot of American people, like they have the second conditional clause. If I'm a teacher, I can take an example. Is that like you have the second conditional clause in English when you have the if clause and the main clause. Like in the second conditional, if I da da da, you put the past tense of the verb, and then you have the
Yeah.
word in the main. Like when you're listening to a native speaker speaking a lot of songs, like you're listening to Justin Bieber and other great singers, you would see that they don't want to use the subjunctive of, because subjective in English is not a very elaborate tense like in Spanish and French and Portuguese, Italian, and all
Yeah.
the languages are very elaborate languages. But in English, it's very it's very easy to learn, it's very easy to pick up. And then when you listen to native speakers, they would say if I was, right. Whereas if you're listening to a grammarian, to a purist, as linguists say,
Yeah.
people that are
Yeah.
very
Work.
Exactly. So you see that they would say if you were, right? Whereas if I was is not is not a way to the communication will be conveyed, the message will be conveyed, will be transmitted
Yes,
to
yes,
the
I
listener.
agree.
Exactly.
I
But if you
agree.
keep focusing stuff on all of these things, you're still not going to be a teacher. If you're going to be a teacher, well, it's great to use these things. But if you just want English just to communicate with people, okay, to communicate,
Yes,
understand, okay, other people, I think it's very important to concentrate on interaction, rules of interaction. First, gonna be a good listener because a lot of people take listening for granted, but listening is you have to practice listening. It's a skill itself. It can be developed,
yes,
right? Like
yes,
speaking, okay, and listening to native speakers, listening to great speakers like Mr. Rang Forret and
yes.
Junior Louisain, and then you'll be able to brush up on your skills, your
Yes.
speaking skill and your skill at the same time. But do not
Mr.
focus
Ribs, I don't
on.
know if you have a, huh?
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
continue. And after, I'm going to give the mic to Mr. Ribs. Probably Mr. Ribs has
Exactly.
something to say. Uh
Uh-huh,
huh.
uh-huh. Do not focus on the because the map do not focus on the map because the map is not the territory. When I'm thinking about the map, I'm just thinking about the rules, grammar rules, pronunciation rules, all of these things. Just immersing yourself. Like, yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Ribs. Uh huh.
Yes. Yes, brother, I have taken time to listen to you, to your speech, and
Mhm.
trust me, my pen, my notebook, everything is around, so I take note. Yes, yes, I take note because I learn new things for myself as well.
Yeah, yes, you
I
may.
know some things to ask, some questions, but I don't know if I can ask. Can I ask, Junior? Can I ask?
Of course, man. You can ask a question. Come on, man. That's a broadcast. We
Okay,
can ask
brother.
questions. Yes.
So in your speech, you talk about how to understand native speaker, and
Mhm.
in between parentheses, you see as well how to sound like a native speaker, and you talk about words. And me, I know that especially in languages, when it comes to learn languages, I know how much words
Mhm.
are polysemic. And
Mhm.
me, I have two questions, but I have different questions. I just want to ask two questions. So number one, eh, I want to know, or I want you to tell me, or to tell
Mhm.
us, to tell the audience, when you are learning a language, brother,
Mhm.
is there a final destination when it comes to learn a language? For example, okay, me, I am advanced or I am C1 level. I am done. I am completely done. So I am not learning anymore because I get to the final destination. I want you to tell me, to tell us
Mhm.
if, when it comes to learn languages, if exactly there is a final destination of learning a language. So,
Okay.
question number two, eh, you know, when you are learning languages or when you are at school, I'm talking about primary school or secondary school, they
Mhm.
always define a language as a means of communication. So you know that, I know that, Junior knows that. We know that in the beginning they say a language is seen like a means of communication. But
Mhm.
uh, when we, how can I say, start to deepen our knowledge linguistically speaking, they tell us
Mhm.
that a language is a dynamic thing. This is something dynamic. This is something which is not static. So, in other words, they say English is an evolutive system. Now, my
Mhm.
question for you is, which one of these two definitions seems to be the best one? Language is a means of communication, or language is an evolutive system? Thank you, brother.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. The
Mhm.
first, let me start with the second one, and then I will just answer the first one because the second one is has to do a lot with what we've been talking about.
Uh-huh.
So first, I would say this is my personal opinion when it comes to language learning, and as an experienced student, prospective linguist, student of linguistics. I would say that language itself is Ferdinand de Saussure, which is the father of linguistics, and Antoine Meillet, one of the greatest linguists of the 20th century, said that language itself is an evolving um, web of culture web that people use just to share their ideas, knowledge, and pieces of information in general. So to me, in primary schools, they give us I would say it's a half truth because there's a certain age just to tell people the truth, right? If I come just to talk to you and I say, let's take an example, that God does not exist, and I just come with a bunch of philosophers and I just with that see that God does not exist, I can say that to you, but I can't say that to a kid, right? Because
Yes.
the kid has a certain way of perceiving reality, and the kid has a different interaction with reality, and we have to protect his or her existence, right? Her ego or his ego. I think in primary schools, it's great to define language as a means of communication because this is what we're basically doing. We're not really focusing on deepening our knowledge on in the language or in the linguistic system in general, but we're trying to communicate, okay, using that linguistic tool. We don't know where it's from. We don't know what it is for. The only functionality of the language is communication. So I think that's right in primary school to tell kids, okay, that language is just a means of communication. But when it comes to later, but after high school, when you're in university, you're interested in language and language learning, language teaching in general. I think it's great to tell language that is a dynamic system. It's not static. It's not something that you learning and then it stopped from there, but it's always going on. It's always moving forward.
Good process.
And
Yes.
this is what Victor Hugo said about French. Back in the 18th century, the French Academy. They still do that until the French Academy. This is an establishment of 40 scholars that are they are the person that are trying to work on the French language. In the 18th century, they said that the French language should be static. Nobody should touch it because it has to stay like this, pure. In the 19th century, with Victor Hugo says that language is like the web and the flow of the sea, of the ocean. Things go, things come, right? It's
Yes.
always moving, almost moving. It's it's human interaction in general because we have different mentality. We are interacting with different people. We are talking to different people with different mindsets, and we are exposed to different ways, to different perceptions. And we have to integrate language that way because if we don't, we're always gonna lag behind, right? We're always gonna be lag behind. So I think the use of like telling language is a means of communication is great for a certain period of time, okay, in
Mhm.
your growth. And telling language is always evolving. Is I would say is closer to the truth itself because language is never static and it will never be because it's always moving forward. And if we take for example the birth of Roman languages, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, all these languages, they break away from Latin. Latin was the base language. And
Mhm.
after time, from the Roman Empire, when the Roman Empire collapsed, and all these different regions have different ways of articulating Latin with these
Mhm.
people, and then they give birth to French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, etc. I think that
Mhm.
people that are in different geographical areas, they always gonna have a different way, okay, to different ways to use the language. That's why we have sociolect, we have regionalect, we have idolect, because people will never articulate their thoughts in the same way. It will never be that way. That's what we have our own individual ways of articulating our linguistic code. And if I take you, you take me, and then we put ourselves to different communities and different part of the world with different languages, and then we have a urge to communicate, we're gonna create something called a patent. A patent is when two languages come together and give forth to a third language that is not basic community. It's called a patent. Linguists call that a patent. After a period of time, it is based in the community, so it's going to be called a Creole. We have the case of the emergence of our Haitian Creole, which is
Yeah.
the conflict languages from in Africa and languages from the metropolitan areas as well, and give birth to the French Haitian Creole language based
But
on French. So yeah, I think that we have to tell kids that the means of communication is very important, and we have to tell them that on a certain period of time, their lives, and later we have to come back to that and tell them that that was not the whole truth. Okay, and yeah,
Yes.
you know about
Thank you,
me.
brother.
All right, all right,
Second question. Yes.
yeah, and then
Yes, you can speak. You
Yeah,
can
I'm here. I'm
continue,
here.
brother.
I'm here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, I'm listening. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah. I'm
and,
listening. Yeah, let's go. We are listening.
yes, all right, cool.
We
And
are all
the
here.
first
We are
question,
all here.
all years, oh, good, good. The first
Yes.
question was destination and final. I think the word destination itself is an utopia that does not exist. There's never a thing called destination. So existence itself is an ongoing thing. It's like, I'm very interested in philosophy at the same time. It's like being is the it's the collection of existing. It's the collection of existing at the same time. So destination is a very um it's a very specific word. Okay. Um, in life, when you put that you have a destination, you can have a short-term destination. You can have a exterior destination. For example, I want to have my degree in linguistics next year, right? I would like to have a degree in law or pharmacy. That's a very short-term and a very exterior destination. But in life, there's no destination. The destination is here and now. Okay, because when you say that there's a final destination, language learning, you are going to be anxious, right? I
Yes.
remember there's a great Chinese philosopher whose name is Lao Tzu, who says that if you're worried about the past, you're going to be depressed. If you're worried about the future, you're going to be anxious, right? Like you're anxious, you want to get there. But I think that you
Yes.
have to enjoy the process. You have to find a great method, enjoying it, and then live with it, incorporating it, but not really worried about, having a final destination. I have my C1, C2 level, because I was speaking to a friend of mine. He's an American. He's always telling me that I have a C3 level. He just put three in English. You told me that I have a C3 level, just to say that I have a level that is above C2. Okay, so, but I'm still learning a lot of things in English. Although I don't learn systematically the way that I used to, like going to a dictionary, using, idiomatic books, grammar
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
I mostly
Uh-huh.
Yes.
learn native speakers. I mostly learn reading the book, listening to a podcast, watching the videos on YouTube. And when I see a word that I don't know, I go to the dictionary and pick it up. Or maybe I try to figure it out through the context in which the word is used, but I'm still learning. And American people are too, right? I talked to an
Yeah.
American friend
Of
who told me
course.
that there are a lot of words. And I said that African American vernacular English. She did not understand that word. African American vernacular English. If you are not linguist and then you're familiar with words, you will not be able to understand that. If I use the
Yes.
word black English, she would understand. You see, it's because that we're constantly learning new things, learning new vocabulary words, learning new expressions, and we should not put that burden in our head that there's a final destination. What we have to be um, we have to concentrate and to focus on is having a good method and talk to our mentors to see
Mhm.
that whether we are moving forward and just keep going. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
not a.
as yes, as you talk about words,
Mm-hmm,
this brings the word polysemic to my head. And
mm-hmm,
also, when you're talking about words, I know that the words they are polysemic because one word might have different meanings.
mm-hmm,
So when it comes to contextualize, for example, when you are putting the words in context.
Yes.
So
mm-hmm,
as an English learner, how
mm-hmm,
can you, because last time I was teaching
mm-hmm,
a by the time I was teaching, but it was a C1 level, I
mm-hmm,
saw a word in a field, in a specific field. The word
mm-hmm,
was illustration. But when I
mm-hmm,
asked the student in this way, what is the meaning of illustration? So they say,
mm-hmm,
oh, teacher, to illustrate this. But in this way, the word illustration in this context was referred to architecture because they told me that when you are talking about architecture, there was a word illustration, but the same way, they write the
Uh-huh.
same way,
Yes.
but
mm-hmm,
they have different meanings. So how do you understand this
mm-hmm.
polysemy? So the words
Mm-hmm.
are polysemic. What can you say about this? Because one word has different meanings. How can you explain the situation? How can you tell the students to understand this meaning according to this context?
Yes, like
Exactly.
or we could talk about like homophone, homograph,
Uh-huh.
homophone,
Yeah,
Exactly.
homograph.
yeah.
How
Right.
does or how do this stuff work in languages? Because sometimes when you are
Uh-huh.
explaining the student what does that mean, homophone, homograph,
Uh-huh.
I mean for him, what you are trying to explain it to him, it nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You
It's
as someone, yes, of course, who as someone who
yes.
probably me,
Uh-huh.
you, Mr. Williams, for example, now
Mm-hmm.
we have been, or we are, or we have been
Mm-hmm.
studying languages for many years. Probably, if someone is trying to explain us what does that mean, those things. So I'm telling you, man. So we are going to take time, of course, like homophone, homographic, homonyms, and so
Antonym,
we are going
synonym.
to take time. But someone who really wants, for example, if we consider English, someone who really wants to speak English, when you are trying to explain him that, Valentino,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he feels bored. But you, as a linguist,
Yeah.
what is your problem about this?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a very delicate question, and it's not only for people that are learning, like a learner. It's for the native speaker, him or herself as well, because you can see that like discrepancy in native speakers' writing system. Okay, like for homophones and homographs in general, but in the speaking, because in the speaking comes before writing, so it's less available for them because the speaking unit just comes just right after. The writing comes just right after. What I would say is that constellation is a method itself. It helps to connect with the language much faster, and it also helps to to have a not to be to depend upon dictionary, glossaries, other types of specialized dictionaries in general. So it's really great because it helps with your native ability, just native way to understand, to pick up the language, to pick up the meaning of of an expression, of a enunciation. So what I would suggest myself when it comes to homophone, homographs, and how to pick up words different is to it's not to focus on a single enunciation because communication is not it's not it's not just one enunciation. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing in general. And we can see that in verbal and nonverbal communication. Like when you're talking right, we're just talking right now. We're using languages delicately. We're using English with different vocabulary words, and we're trying to speak so that we can elicit our thoughts. But mm, more than 80% of communication is based on nonverbal, like gesture, tone, tonalities, intonation, prosody, all these things. You have to pay attention to these things. Okay.
Yes.
And if the person is referring to the thing that he's talking about that is in present, the person might, point to the thing with his finger. Okay. So all these things, they help a lot in understanding a word, understanding an expression. Sometimes I even talk to a friend of mine about that. When a native speaker is listening to something, they don't catch, everything. They just
Yes.
catch of the
Yes.
communication.
They just
The
catch
thing
the
that is
idea. I know.
exactly,
Or
exactly,
they try to
exactly.
get the gist. They got to, I
Uh-huh.
mean, they try to get the gist of it, the gist
Exactly.
of the speech. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But now for Valentino, now we are in the air. Now we are in the air because probably there are many students.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they are trying to understand the terms. The term.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's why our cameraman says that practice will always remain the key because we have
Yeah.
someone
Currently,
that yes who is listening to us. I mean, for him, grammar, vocabularies, like all those things,
Uh-huh.
they are important, but the best important will remain
Uh-huh.
practice. Now,
Hmm.
Valentino, we have at least like 13 minutes to finish your rave. You see,
Oh,
we got 1 hour, but because like
I get
this
you.
podcast is so hard. Mr.
Mhm.
Valentino, probably I will ask him the same question.
Mhm.
As an English teacher, as a linguist, I want you
Mm-hmm.
to get it down. When I say to get it down, I think you really understand what I'm trying to talk. Because there are
Mm-hmm.
many students, they are listening to us, they are watching us now.
Okay. Okay.
Please
Yeah.
tell them, advise them, please tell them, as teacher Kabi has just said, practice will remain the key. Okay, no problem. I don't have any problem. No biggie with that. But you tell them to learn the languages, what
Mm-hmm.
must they do or what should they do to
Mm-hmm.
learn? Because when you are talking about learning languages, honestly, they have one thing on the mind: grammar,
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary, grammar,
Yeah.
vocabulary, grammar, or expression or idioms. That's what they have in mind. So
Okay.
can you tell them, "Look, take your
Mm-hmm.
time, speak a little bit slow for us, slowly, and
Okay.
tell them the best way in your view to
Mm-hmm.
learn a languages." All right?
Very good. All right, all my friends out there. This is my idea when it comes to learn a second, a third, or a fourth language. First and foremost, you should have a goal, right? You should have a goal. Why are you going to learn a language? Is it just to go to a country to study there? Is it to do business with people, in another country? Is it
Trade.
for exactly trade? Uh-huh. Is it like just to, to get a good grades in a university or in school? What is your goal? And after the goal is to find the time, because this is the most important thing that we don't talk about. It's the time, right? Because a lot of people, for example, I can spend 1 hour a day learning a language. Other people can spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, etc. You find the time. Do not say that, well, I have time, tomorrow, learning the language. No, you just trying to find your own pace and say, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes a day studying a
Yes.
language. I'm going to do that. I'm going to
Mhm.
use this application. I'm going to use this channel because YouTube channels are very, very, very important these days.
I mean, you want to tell
I'm
me, you want to tell me one of the best method to learn a language is to have a plan. That's what you want to tell my
exactly,
audience.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Just to have a plan. If you don't,
No,
you won't be able.
Rims. Probably all my students will say, "Hey, what is he talking about?" Because probably in the mind they will think that you will
Uh-huh,
say, "Master your
uh-huh.
grammar, master your
Yeah.
Uh,
vocabulary." Yeah,
Vocabulary. They might be confused, or they are confused.
yeah.
yeah, exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Because grammar is, as I said, grammar is the extraction of communication. It's the extraction of the language. It's not the language itself. Is
Yeah.
what people use all the different similarities in the language, and they theorize it. They just put it as a
Yes.
theory, and then people go to school just to learn them. But grammar itself is not the language. It helps. It helps in a systematic way, but it's not the language. Not even, you might be interested in grammar if you're going to take a class. You're going to take a class in university in the United States and you want grammar just to have a good grade and read great literature. Yeah, grammar is cool. But if you want to communicate the way that I'm communicating right now, I would say that start by immersing yourself in the language using
Yes.
different things that can stimulate you, that can give you the urge just to learn the language. But do not study the language, but learn the language.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So do not commit to memory because some students they think junior okay, me, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna memorize. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Professor Hector, I love this man from the school.
Uh-huh.
He said,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yes,
I'm a
he said the
mentor.
sentence. Yes, our mentor, he said the sentence, but it was in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Practicando se hace un maestro. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, c'est en forgeant qu'on devient forgeron. He likes to
Exactly.
say this, so practice makes perfect. So I
Mm-hmm.
love to say this, me, the only
Mm-hmm.
one way you can speak a language is only when you speak it. Because if you
Exactly.
don't speak the language, you will never be able to speak it. Trust me, I'm not making puns. I'm not playing with the words. No, this is not my plan. So now I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you the truth, guys. The only one way you can, because here we live in Turkey, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Valentino. So,
Okay.
And we are
eh,
waiting for you.
so we are waiting for you, of course. No, the
Cool,
problem
cool,
is
cool.
that Me and Junior and me and the other guys, we are still fighting with the Turkish language to learn it. We are fighting.
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
okay. We know many words. We know a lot of
We know-
words, but when
yes.
it comes to speak,
Yes.
we can't. So we finally
Exactly.
realized that the only
Yes.
one way we can speak a language is when we speak it, guys. That's it. To to join you on your approach exactly when you speak. So do not memorize. We just need to learn. That's the key.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Let me
Do not make it.
now. As you say, excuse me, we should have a plan. We should have a plan. Because
Exactly.
Rams has just said practice makes perfect, but I was listening to a motivator and he say practice makes improvement. Do you understand? I mean,
Yeah.
he said if you keep saying practice makes perfect, and if the person does that practice, probably the person will be discouraged. That means it is better for you as a teacher to say to the person practice makes improvement. That means he thinks that if he's practice, of course he's going to improve because everyone is trying to be perfect. Everyone is trying to be the best. Do you
And
understand?
the
But
key is
we
that they
as
will never be perfect. That's the point. The point is that they will never be perfect because perfection does not exist. Let's consider this.
And that's a very interesting idea. And that's why there is an English expression that said that there's always room for improvement. There's always something that you need to improve on, to get better on. And if you go to the etymology of the word perfection itself, that we get to see that perfection is from Latin perfectus, which means that is not attainable. It is just an utopia. Perfection does not exist, as you said, Mr. Ryman. Right?
Exactly.
Perfection is something that you put in your head just to move forward. But the word is a perfect truth does not exist. It is
Yes.
exactly that is attainable. And that's the reason why a lot of, back in other civilizations, they give that idea of perfection to God, to the all conscious, the all knower, because that is the one that does not need any other forces just to experience reality in general. So perfection does not exist. There's always room for improvement. And then you should not put the language as a burden. Oh, I have to learn today. No, you have to make it fun. It has to be funny, right? And you have to have your friends. You have to communicate. And you have to respect others. You have to help others, other beginners, if you're an advanced or intermediate, help others. That's a good way to learn as well. And you have to communicate. Get it out of your head. Get it out of your system. Communication is key, right?
Yes.
You have to.
Mr. Valentino, we have Legend Schneider. Legend
Okay,
Schneider says that he has a question. Schneider, you can ask your question. While Mr. Valentino is trying to give some piece of advice, of course, you can ask a question.
This is my classmate. This is my classmate. Schneider, big shout out to you from ENS.
Yeah, let's go, Valentino.
My friend.
Schneider.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can keep
continue,
on
Valentino. You can continue,
Yes, I would say that. So we're not trying to be perfect. So we're just trying to be better. We're comparing ourselves to ourselves. Okay.
Valentino, excuse me, please. Say something here for me, please. Say something. It's a question. Can you read for me, Rams?
Yes, I'm listening.
No, can you read? Speaking quickly. Is it the evidence of speaking English very well?
Because speaking English very well. Yes.
Yeah, because there are many guys. What happened? They speak very quickly. They like to I would like to see you now to Spain. I mean, when people can we define?
Yes, they speak very quick. Speak very quick to how can I say, to impress the audience or to impress the interlocutor.
Speaking fast is the evidence to tell someone master a language.
There's a saying which is that when you speak fast, when you speak slow, you're more honest. Okay, you're more honest when you speak slow. Like when you're listening to great speakers like Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, they speak very, very, very So they're trying to speak slow, even though Barack Obama speaks fast in a natural way. So I think that speaking fast, it has to be with the natural rhythm of the person. Myself, I cannot say that I speak slow. That's the way I speak in general. I
Exactly.
yeah, I speak even in Haitian Creole. I speak a little bit. I don't know, most
Natural.
of them
Something natural, let's
a little
say.
bit fast. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But speaking fast is a myth that people put in the head of other people, especially students. Um, that if you're not able to understand someone who's speaking fast, thus you don't have a sufficient ability um, to speak or to understand the language. It's a myth that has been debunked by a lot of linguists.
Hmm.
But we still have this in Haiti, especially because Haitian people believe that a lot of Haitian people, especially people who have no specialty in language in general, they see them. They have this, you know, idea that when somebody speaks language very fast, the person speaks the language well. That's a myth. That's a myth. You have to compare the pace of the person in his
Yes.
mother tongue and the pace of the person when he's speaking the second language. I know in English it sounds a little bit different because in English there are a lot of English is not a phonetic language like in Spanish or Italian. Like in English you have a lot of you have kinetic speech, words are linking all together. In kinetic speech you can have one word here and the ending of this word, for example, it ends with D, T, and then it's going to influence the next word, and that gives a tendency, okay, that the person is speaking fast. But in reality, the person is not speaking fast, right? If I say
Do-
in reality, the person is not speaking fast, I don't speak fast right now. It's just I'm blending all the words together, and you have this kind of
Exactly.
tension that I am fast. But if the
Teacher Mike
Exactly.
person
Stone
is
says that. Uh-huh.
deliberately is deliberately speaking fast, the person does not speak the language. That's all.
Yeah.
So we don't really have much time, Mr. Williams. Teacher Mackison says speaking quickly is not quite an evidence to show that someone master a
Masters
language.
in language.
The speed should be natural,
Natural.
I think. But
Exactly.
I think
I
Legend
think
Schneider would like to ask a question, but I don't really see the question,
Yeah.
Schneider. What should I do
But
to read? But we
true.
don't really see
to
the
rear
What
what,
should
question.
I
Schneider?
Yeah,
What should you do to veer to IT?
weird.
Yeah.
So we are waiting for the question. So now
But brother Valen,
we are about to
I,
call it a day. We are
I,
about to
but,
call it a day. But
but I
teacher
have
Valent, if
teacher
Yes.
you
Valent.
if you
Yes,
have time, so I
I
am
have a
going to talk.
last.
Excuse me, Mr. Rent. Excuse me,
Okay,
Mr. Rent.
okay,
I
okay,
am
okay.
going to say that in public. And for
Mm-hmm.
learn is a platform that is open for everybody. For example, we have a lot of students from ENS. I'm going to contact
Mm-hmm.
them if they are available, if they have any broadcast. So this platform is here for them. Doesn't mean to see me, doesn't mean to
Mm-hmm.
see Rems, Mr. Valentino. If you have any broadcast you want to help, only you, I can only prepare my studio and send you the link and you get it and you get your broadcast whenever
All right.
you want. So now, if you have your friend, French,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, English, so if you see that that guy can manage, like can know exactly the topic that he's going to debate, so Info is open to
Mm-hmm.
help those people understand the best way to learn languages. And now, Mr. Rims, we have the question: what do you
Hey,
do more about your English skills? That's the
so
first one. Did you learn
to
at
learn
ANS only, or
to
you read a lot? Did you read a lot of literature books?
read.
Answer code. Now, Mr.
That's a
Valentino,
bunch of questions from
that's the
our
last
comrade
that's the
Schneider.
last question you are going to answer. And after Mr. Wim, I don't know if Mr. Rims has something to say. And after Mr. Rims, you will have much time to greet your families, your friends, your classmates
Mm-hmm.
from linguistic faculty, ENS. I
Mm-hmm.
know those guys they are watching for you now. So now you have the time to answer Mr. Schneider. Let's go.
Nice.
Yes.
Listen, yeah. Where did I get my English skills? Basically, I went to ENS in 2015. I think Louisain that was 2014, 1 year ahead of me. So in was in, and I should supposed, to finish in
But
2019. But
when you say ANS, what do you mean? Because probably there are
yeah,
many
that
people living there
exactly,
like
exactly. Yeah,
ANSs.
ENS is a college. It's a college in Haiti. It's based in Haiti. It's a state college where you go to, to have just to gain some competency when it comes to teaching different things.
Yes.
Case, it was language, okay, modern languages. I went there just to brush up on my ability to teach languages and also learn Spanish because at that time I didn't have a great, I didn't speak Spanish that well. So ENS was exactly the place to give me a really great ground in Spanish. So for English, I didn't actually learn English there for English. I learned specifically Spanish there with a lot of teachers, as you mentioned, Hector, uh, Madame Valles, Madame
Yes.
Gabo, a lot of others.
Garmandia. Garmandia.
Yeah, Gamendia, yeah. So was teaching Spanish phonetics. For English, I can say that I started learning English I started learning English when I was very, very, very young. And I went to ANS just to have a diploma and also to be a professional teacher. But I didn't go there just to learn English, just to study English. That's why I wanted to study philosophy when I got to ANS, but I didn't have the possibility still because, and I saw the opportunity just to learn Spanish, and I said, okay, let me just continue with my studies maybe, and then I can have a job in teaching languages. That would be cool. I think for English, what I basically do is I enjoy reading a book. I enjoy reading books. I enjoy listening to scientific debates in English, and I enjoy talking to a lot of foreigners and foreign friends that I have in the U.S. I have in other countries like in Brazil, etc. I read a lot of books. You can see I read books in literature. I'm going to show you a book right here. This is history right here.
Uh-huh.
Um, United States history from 16 to 80, 1987. So that's a book about the American history. I'm very interested in these things, but I'm not learning English. That's how I started learning English, though. And I went to normal school. They give me good grasp on grammar, and I focus on grammar a little bit. That's
Mhm.
why I consider that a professional professor now. But I learned the language by immersing myself in native content. Yeah, I don't really consider English as I could say still a second language for me, English and French altogether. But English is it's almost the same as Haitian Creole to me because I use English the same way that I use Haitian Creole. I have a lot of
Exactly.
friends. I use a lot in English. I even read in English more than in Haitian Creole, even in French. In French, they are balanced. So English is just a natural way, yeah, just to understand.
Book rum. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that that's the to me that's the best way. And sometimes if I really want to broaden my horizon, uh, just to know a lot of words. For example, there's a word, an expression that I learned last year in English. It was to get caught in short. That's a very expression. That is a very idiomatic expression that I've never heard about that. I had never heard about it to get caught in short. So I learned it from a book of literature. I was reading a book. This a book right here that I have in my bookshelf called "The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn" by Mark Twain, which is a really great American writer. And to get caught in short means like in Haiti, you have this this kind of toilet that you have in Haiti that are not very modern. And then like when you go to the countryside, you're passing by and you feel like going to defecate, but you did not plan for that. You see, you did not plan for it, but you have to go to defecate. Yeah, to get caught in front. Yeah. So that's how I pick up, vocabulary and words that are very important. Things that are very direct to the culture. But I don't really study, in a book, in a grammar book.
Yes.
I only open grammar books when I'm going to prepare my whole class because I teach in a school in something called Institution de L'Institution, and I'm the one who's responsible for language in general in the linguistic department, especially English. So when I'm going to teach in NS3 and S4 in NS2, I just open a grammar book, and I trying to find different ways just to teach the students, in a more, in a way that it could be very simple. And I try to find different definitions. Like if I'm going to talk about clause, if I'm going to talk about tenses, aspects, what's the best way to present that to the students? But myself, I understand these things in a natural way. I don't really have to go to a grammar book just to understand them because I'm using the language as if it were my mother tongue. I would say.
Exactly.
Although I have a lot of accents in English, I'm still improving my my understanding, my writings. All these things have to do with culture because I'm not going to be able to understand. It's going to be very difficult to understand everything culturally speaking, but still
That's
picking up things, but in a very gradual way.
that's wonderful, brother.
Now,
Yeah.
Me,
yes,
to be honest, me, we're going to done. Me, I want to conclude.
yes,
It's
yeah, we're about to
always
call it a day.
it's always a pleasure for me to hear from you and to learn from you. I am
Thank you, guys.
honest. It's you know
Yeah.
what I love. For example, Junior, when it comes to languages, I love to learn about people or about speaker, not not talk about grammar. Or today we're gonna talk about past perfect. So it's how you can describe the
Mhm,
situation you are in this language,
mhm,
how you can improvise in this language. This is exactly how someone knows the language, and this is
mhm,
exactly the situation that I'm living now. And brother, to tell the truth, to be honest, and I'm really proud of you both, my two seniors. You have been and you are always my
mhm,
seniors. I have been following you for years, approximately 2 or 4 years. And thank you so
mhm.
much because I have the chance to be here with you guys.
Rams,
Keep
Infolang is
going.
yours.
Keep
Infolang
going.
is yours.
Keep
Infolang,
going, guys.
Infolang is Valentino's. Valentino's now you have time to give pieces
Mhm,
of advice, and you have
mhm,
time to great to salute, I don't know, your
mhm,
families, to say hi because
mhm.
probably they will be happy. I think your mother will be happy
Yeah.
when she sees
Uh-huh.
that his son,
Yeah.
no, now the world is watching his son now. Many Turkish students now, they're watching for you. They're texting me. They say congratulations, guys. So yo, congratulations. Now you have 1 minute to give
Mhm,
some pieces of
mhm.
advice and say hi to some friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the piece of advice is, guys, just get it out of your head. Implement the language, learn, and keep moving. Do not worry about other people's methods, other people's way of doing of learning the language. Just trying to have your own way and compare yourself to yourself because there's an American president who said that comparison is the thief of joy. Like if you're comparing yourself to other people, you're not going to be happy for the rest of your life. So the attitude is just comparing yourself to yourself. So greeting, I have a lot of friends actually. When I'm going to share this live on Facebook, they are going to watch it again because maybe they're gonna watch it, just to have just to understand, to have all pieces of information that we've been sharing here. People that are from FLA, the Faculty of Linguistics in Haiti, and especially in the fourth year. People, couple of friends from ENS as well, École Normale Supérieure. So, and also I have, people that are watching my befriend, other people that are watching. Yeah, I have a friend of mine. Her name is Julie Cam. She's actually watching. I have Emmanuel Exot. He's going to be watching as well. Um, so guys, thank you so much. And I know
But
that
but
my
but but
mother.
but but I see you don't say hi to your girlfriend.
Brother, she said this. She said maybe she doesn't specify the name. She doesn't say the name, but she said, I guess.
Yeah. And Asnel, Julie Cam,
Yes.
Exot. Okay, guys, that I actually like you. I love you guys. The whole crowd from fourth year of linguistics. So thank you so much, guys, for this time. Junior, Mr. Ryan, that's a really good honor, really good opportunity for me to be with you. I'm very pleased, very delighted just to share this panel with you guys, and I hope to do it in the future.
So you're
Yes.
welcome, bro.
Thank you, Mr. Valentino, and thank you for joining. Thank you so much. And we hope that we will play another broadcast probably in May or June, probably. But as I said to you, whenever you need my platform at this time,
Okay.
At this time, you can say, Teacher Junior, today I want to be live on your platform. Now you will get your platform. Me, I'm gonna promote you.